Years ago, we began calling our interns Warriors of the Heart. And the name stuck because doing this work with the elders requires a big heart. And I always say when I interview interns that the work is heartwarming and heart-opening, heartbreaking. So we're going to do an exercise today to work around the issue of grief, our own grief, and really try to be present with it. This exercise was created, at least from my understanding, I did it when I was a counselor for the Shanti Project back in the 1980s when the AIDS pandemic was just beginning. Some of you are nodding your heads. So it was an exercise that, those trainings were very intense. I went on years later to run those trainings. They were 40-hour trainings for the volunteers that were going to work with primarily the men who had AIDS. At that time, we didn't even know about HIV really. And so it was over 2 different weekends. And the last weekend was the grief training and the memorial service. It was a very intense time. So I'm always a little like, whoo, this exercise is, it touches me in other ways too. So what I want to say at the beginning is that if at any point you feel that this is too much, give yourself permission to sit there quietly noticing what feelings are coming up for you, and you don't have to go on with the participation. When Shanti taught that to me, I appreciated that because I don't believe in endurance contests. When I teach meditation, I say it's okay to keep your eyes open because everyone's different. Not everyone feels safe in a big circle, closing their eyes. So I just want you to take care of yourselves, and I also invite you to push your limit if you can. Okay? So noticing already the energy has quieted in the room. Working with these elders brings great joy, and in the 4 years I've been here, it also brings a lot of sorrow. We often do memorial services for our elders. I encourage the students to take part. We encourage the staff to take part. It's an important rite of passage, and it's also an important moment to acknowledge for staff as well as the students, and I mean the care partners who are on the floor doing the daily tasks of living, who get to know them more intimately than we do on that level. And also just for even the management team, everyone gets touched by these elders, and so when they pass, it's an event. And to ignore it and pretend it hasn't happened does nobody any service, and so we really are aware at Age Song of making space. 1 month at Lakeside Park, we had probably 8 elders pass in a very short amount of time, in like 6 months. I mean, it was just one of those waves that starts to happen. And we would do the memorial service, on both floors. And one of the elders came up to me and said, "I'm so sorry about your friend." And it doesn't matter what they call them, that they think it was my friend, or, we just do. And we try and bring all the traditions in, all the faith traditions. So it's a really wonderful thing. All right. So I'm going to ask you to take these papers. We'll start with this first. And selecting, so you have sets of 9. And what I'd like you to do is, and you can take a note so you know what you're doing. On 3 of the sheets of paper, I want you to write down 3 people that are important in your life. Like someone you love, someone you care about. It could be a furry friend. It's not just a human. And then on the next 3 sheets, I want you to write down 3 activities that you love doing, 1 on each sheet. So it might be reading, it might be surfing, it might be sitting at my computer. 3 activities that you love to do. And on your last 3 Post-its, I want you to write down 3 roles that you play in your life. So it might be a sister, a brother, a teacher, a partner, a wife, husband, child, nephew, aunt, auntie, uncle. So on each Post-it, 1 role that you play in your life that's important to you. So I believe as therapists that we really need to work with our own grief. I specialize in grief and loss in my practice, so it's no coincidence that I also do comedy. To me, they're just 2 sides of, it's life. It's really about life. And from my own experience, I know that grief has opened my heart to have wider sense of joy. But when we're in the midst of the grief process, it's hard to know that. And I'm sure there isn't one person in this room today who hasn't experienced loss in one form or another. We don't leave planet Earth without losing things, people we love, having personal tsunamis in our lives. So sit back and close your eyes, holding on to the pieces of paper. And if you're not comfortable closing your eyes, it's fine. Just keep your gaze downward, feeling your feet on the floor and your body supported by the chair. If your inner critic is up, just ignore that voice and ask it to be quiet. Just feeling your breath. Our sacred breath, it's with us till the end. So I want you to imagine that you haven't been feeling well lately. You've just been off. Your energy's been off. You haven't had the same appetite that you've usually had. You have no interest in the things that you usually love to do. And finally, one of your friends has said, why don't you go just find out what's going on? So you go to the doctor. Just imagine yourself making the appointment and then showing up at the doctor's office or the clinic that you go to. And the doctor decides that he has to run, or she, some tests to see what's going on with you. And then you're getting a little more anxious because the doctor can't quite figure out what's going on. So just imagine what that would feel like, sitting in that unknown for a couple of weeks after the tests are done, not getting answers yet. And then it's your time to be at the doctor's office, so you bring somebody with you that you care about because you don't want to go by yourself. So just imagine what it feels like to make that appointment. Sit in the waiting room with your friend or your loved one, feeling the anxiety or whatever else is coming up. And then you go in and the doctor sits down and doesn't look very comfortable. And the doctor says, I have some, bad news. The tests show that you have this disease A, and we don't really know what we're going to do about it because there aren't that many drugs to help. And you're going to probably have more symptoms of weakness and not feeling like you want to participate in your life. And suddenly you can't even hear the doctor anymore. It looks like he's just talking and you don't hear anything because you're going into some set level of shock. Thinking about this person can't be talking to me. And then you tune back in, the doctor says something about, let's check in next week and we'll see what we can start, a regimen to keep you feeling better for now. But we really don't see that there's going to be much hope. So just take a moment as you're listening to think about what that would feel like. The thoughts going through your head. Who do you have to tell? What are you going to do about work and school and all the other parts of your life that you just don't seem to have much energy for? So you go home and you're alone. Even if you have someone in the house, it still feels very alone. Just letting yourself feel into that. A few weeks pass, you're taking some kind of medication and the side effects are making you feel worse than even what it is, this mysterious malady that you seem to have. You don't even want to take the damn drugs. They're making you fuzzy, you can't think, you don't want to eat, you're running to the bathroom. You're beginning to wonder what's happening to your life. So I want you to slowly open your eyes and look at the papers in your hand, because you're beginning to lose certain things in your life. I want you to look at the things you've written down. And I want you to choose one thing out of those 9 pieces of paper that represent so much of who you are. I want you to choose something that you're giving up because the disease is now creating havoc in your life and making things really challenging. So pick one thing, and when you're ready, I want you to walk into the circle and throw it into the bag. Pick one thing or person or whatever out of all those 9 sheets that you're willing to get rid of, unwillingly probably, but the disease is making you feel like you can't cope with something. So pick one out of the 9, take one, that you are going to give up because you're choosing, your life is changing. Notice how it feels. Sit back in your chair and close your eyes. Think about what you just gave up. Notice what you're feeling. What was it like to select, even though in a way the disease is causing you to select? And now it's a few months later, things are not really good. You just don't have the energy. Things have shifted tremendously. People aren't even keeping in touch. You're more isolated. Maybe there's a few people that are still there for you. You're feeling overwhelmed. You don't know what to do. Maybe your student loans are due. Work isn't being very kind about you needing time off if you're working. Your friends are like not really sure. You've told some of them and some of them you haven't. They don't know what's happening. I want you to open your eyes slowly again and look at your list and choose one more thing that you're giving up and walk into the center of the room and put it in the bag. We'll go around twice, so don't pull everything out. Okay? And when you're done, sit down, close your eyes, and think about what that was like. What is it that you're losing? What is shifting in your world? What was it like to pick something, even though it's the illness that's picking you and forcing you? It's 6 months later, you're spending more time in bed. The drugs just really aren't helping. You need help getting dressed. Sometimes you don't even want to eat. You're forcing yourself to eat. You've lost weight. Your energy's really low. And now the disease is coming around and the disease is taking things from you. So I want you to hold up all the papers in your hand. And the disease is coming around now and it's taking things from you. See what it feels like to have so much taken away. Notice what feelings are coming up. Close your eyes. Look at what's left in your hand and then close your eyes. Look at what's left in your hand. Open your eyes. Look at what's left. What's happening? Your whole world's careening out of control. Close your eyes. It's almost a year later. Life is really changing. The disease is taking even more from your life. Open your hands. See what's left. See what's gone. I want you to turn to somebody sitting close to you and start talking about what just happened for you. Notice what you're feeling. That's a good one.
And my mom, I just had a
That's what I mean. We all have our roads to hold. Everybody's got to travel. I believe. So I'd like to invite whatever feels comfortable for you to share in the larger group what came up for you, how you're feeling towards me, towards Curtis. Because that's part of it too sometimes, oftentimes.
I found myself not wanting to lose the people, so I think that was the hardest.
Did you, oh, how,
I lost everything.
you lost everything. Yeah. But the people, of course, the hardest. Yeah. Thanks, Kelly.
When we had to choose, like, you know, the disease was choosing for me, I felt more like I can prioritize pretty well. So I wanted to be like, curse you, Curtis, when he just ripped it out of my hands and my eyes closed.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't even know how many Post-its I have left. It was really sad.
So that sense of helplessness, because there's no choice. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Things that I thought was important became less important. When I first started the list, I'm like, oh, I can't lose video games. I love video games. And then video games, after like the first round, video games not a big deal anymore. It's the least of my worries. So it really put things in perspective of really is important.
And what was that?
People.
Yeah.
People.
Yeah.
Family.
Family. Thank you. Others? Yeah.
I found a sense of gratitude for what remained.
And how'd you feel about what was taken and what you chose?
Helpless.
Helpless. Sad. Yeah.
Robbed.
Robbed. It's a great way to put it. That's what happens.
I'd like to invite any of the dyads where there was a significant difference between
Great.
somebody who retained something and somebody who lost everything. If there was resentment between those people or what that was like. I don't want to pick out anyone.
I have nothing left. She had a lot left. But there wasn't. I don't know, when everything was taken, I showed like there was a sort of a sense of that's what was expected. Like, okay, like of course everything would be taken.
Yeah.
Which was interesting, but also with that like a resiliency of like, well, when I have suffered loss, like then there's always something after that. And it's like almost once everything's taken, then the something after can come.
Right.
So there's almost like a hope. Like I almost feel like I prefer that than having like one left.
Right.
Then I would have been more mourning the other ones, but.
Right. Or when is that one going to go?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. When that one's
Right.
the last thing.
Right.
Actually, yeah, just saying that, I'm remembering when one of my grandpas passed. He had been ill like pretty much for 15 years, and every time I went to the doctor, they like took something away. Like he would go to the doctor, he had a stroke, so like they took half of his body function away, and then the feeding tube, and it was like, and my whole family was clinging on to him. I remember when he passed, I was just like, thank you. They can't take anything else away anymore.
Right. Time to go. Yes. Yes.
Yeah,
And families cling.
Like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's still like,
Yeah.
I was like,
Of course.
She was still here. I was like, I don't.
Not that way.
Yeah, I don't want him.
We don't
here.
want them back suffering. We
Yeah,
still
I don't
miss
want-
them though,
yeah,
but
of
not that way, of
but
course.
I don't want him here.
Of course, tubed up and
Not
yeah.
speaking with a feeding tube.
Yeah, that's no way to live. Yeah. Yes.
I was struck by a couple of things. First of all, taking one away was okay. I can recenter. I can balance one thing.
Yeah, it's just
not
one.
a person, so it's a thing.
Right.
And then when you came around and ripped like everything in one, well, there were two singular things, and then there was a ripping away of a huge amount of things
Right.
at once.
Right.
So what that triggered in me was, well, yeah, little things happen, you adjust, but what happens if everything happens? I mean, sometimes
Right.
it's not a little bit
No,
taken away.
no.
Sometimes it's all gone.
Yeah.
And what do I have left
Right.
when that happens? So
Right.
the ripping,
Yeah.
I heard, I think it was you. Mike,
Yes, it was me.
ripped it away.
Yeah.
It just felt like a ripping
Yeah.
away of a piece of
Totally.
my life. It's like throwing
Right.
it away. And so that little by little versus a huge
Yeah.
chunk all at once is
Right.
a different kind
Right.
of awareness for me. And the other little trick I played with myself is I had left with my husband. He was on top, and I was worried that he was vulnerable on top, so I put him on the bottom. I know that you guys were ripping away from every point.
Right.
But somehow I felt safer for me to put my husband on the bottom of the pack. And when you came and ripped everything away, when I opened my eyes, he was like, so that felt good.
Good.
That felt good.
How did you feel towards me ripping them, or the disease, or however you wanted to?
I just, it wasn't really wasn't about you.
Yeah.
For me, in the moment, it was like, oh, life does that.
Life does that, yeah.
Life, and
Right.
you know, can be
This
a
is
little bit
life.
at a time, or it can just be all
Right.
rewarding.
Right.
Life can do that.
Right. We could have an earthquake right now. Right. Me first down the stairs. Other people, yes.
The person I had left was my nephew,
Mm.
and I felt tremendous anxiety. Anxiety is not the right word, but just concern about the burden on him.
Mm. Wow. That he'd
Granted,
be,
he's 6.
but that he'd be the only one left.
Yes. I mean, the other thing I had was, spending time with friends. So it's like, but the fact that he was the only person left, I felt tremendous, like a huge weight was going to be placed on him.
Right. Yeah. Thank you. Feelings coming up?
I just started thinking about, first of all, I felt guilty because I had so much and so many, like my grandma, my nephew, people that I really hold
Right.
dearly. But when Kyrie lost everything, I felt so horrible for her. But I also started thinking of clients that have lost so much
Right.
over and over and over,
Right.
and there's a sense of disconnect, I think, and shutdown
Yes.
that starts to happen.
Yeah.
When you just keep losing.
Right.
Why do I want to connect with
That's
anyone
right.
else?
Right.
You know,
Why open my
that's what
heart
it
again?
is.
Right.
So
Exactly.
that was
Yeah. And guilt. Yeah.
You know, one of the things that struck me when I participated in this, it reminded me when you were speaking, I was left with the name of my wife. But on the roles, I had put one of the roles that was special to me was a husband. And thinking about what would it be like for me to recognize this beautiful person that I married to, or recognize her as a person. I know you, but I don't know what the relationship is. Are you my wife, my sister, my mother? And I think that so often we forget, we assume that the role and the person is the same thing.
Right.
And I hear you speak of your husband, that you're left with a name. You might recognize this person, but not who he is to you. And so I think that those roles are so important, the roles that we play.
Yeah. Anyone else?
I was done and looking at this, and I was talking to Lily, and she was left with her role, the role of her wife.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking about, well, I actually have my career, she has the role, and how is that different?
Right.
Absolutely.
And if we translate it to this population, like what you were saying, that your elder might think you're their wife, their mother, their lover. It's,
I've been many women's husband in this, in these
Yeah.
communities.
This is a non-monogamous.
Yeah. Anyone else? Yeah.
No, I think I went to a completely different place almost immediately. And that was, when you were sort of saying I wasn't feeling good and I was getting tired and I didn't want to do anything. I thought, well, what the heck am I studying for?
What are you living for? Yeah. Thank you.
I don't want to do this because I couldn't even imagine missing an activity if I didn't have any energy.
Did you lose everything?
I lost everything but my role as sister.
Wow. So what am I here for? What's the point? Yeah, what's the point? Well, I think for me, the helplessness I feel in the face of clients who feel like that.
Yeah.
And as I teach my students, we have to tap into our own lives and what we have felt when we have been in those dark places too. But I had a client once who had heinous abuse, starting in infancy, and she said, I have no hope. And I said, well, let me hold it for you. She absolutely couldn't hold her hope. So I felt like I was the holder of the hope until there was a time when she could begin to see that maybe there was a purpose for her still being here. There's a Sufi proverb on the handout I'm going to give you right now, and the bottom of it says, when the heart weeps for what it has lost, the spirit laughs for what it has found. And some of you have sort of touched on that. This is a spiritual journey, And my belief is that no matter whether it's the long goodbye of forgetfulness, or when I lost 11 friends and my younger brother to AIDS in the 1980s, and people had tsunamis in India and it's, life on planet Earth is uncertain at best. And so we get choice, what to do with what we're handed, to remain closed and bitter, or to eventually open up to what do I do now that this loss has come into my life, which is kind of what you were saying, I think, a little bit, you know. My parents joined Compassionate Friends a little bit after my brother passed away, and back then no one talked about AIDS, so they didn't even disclose what he had passed from. And they were very supportive of my brother and I being gay, so it wasn't that issue, it was more like how people felt about it. And a couple came into their meeting one day, and their daughter had passed away 5 years ago, and they never left the house except to grocery shop. No more friends, no more life, stayed home. They never came back to the meeting because the parents in that room, who had also suffered similar losses of a child, which we feel is the worst loss because it's out of what we believe is the way it's supposed to be, were going on with their lives. And my mother wrote in the newsletter at some point, the first time she laughed, she felt so guilty. How could she laugh when her baby son was gone? You know? But I think we sort of do our lives as a testimony. So you're going to meet families who are struggling with this journey. My mother doesn't know me anymore. I mean, we have a family at Wood Park. We're just starting our family support group, and the son, the daughter-in-law's a little, but the son, Mom, why are you doing that? He can't get it, that the mom he loved in her heart is still that mom, but in the behavior, she's gone. And so he's grieving. So he'd rather be angry. You know. Does that make sense? Yeah. Yeah. Other questions? So the sheet is really, a lot of these questions you can't answer now. They're for later on in the internship. They're about looking at your own countertransference about it, looking at your family history. How do you handle grief and loss? When clients terminate, they often don't show up for last sessions, or they'll get angry at the therapist because they don't know how to feel how sad they are. You know, sometimes it's been rare, but occasionally I'll have a student be really mad with the placement towards the end of the year because she doesn't really, or he want to say goodbye to me and to all the staff, and it's hard, and every year I'm grieving at the end of each year. So, you know, you have to start noticing, what do you do with your own grief? You know, and then looking at just all the things that are going to happen on the floors with the elders. I brought a student in to sit with an elder once who had just passed. It happened to be on her day, and it was her elder, and she had never been with a dead body. And I said, do you want to go in? I would never force a student. And she did, and she wanted me to come with her. So I sat with her for a while with Bob, and then she wanted me to leave her alone until the wife came, and we did. And you know, here we do the Zen flower ceremony. We go and get flower petals from the garden or wherever, and we put them in a big bowl, and we get the care partners and whoever, the med techs, whoever wants to. And again, they all have different beliefs about being with dead, you know, with bodies where spirit is left, so you have to be sensitive to that. And then we cover the body with the flower petals, and then we wait for the hearse, the mortuary to come, and we distract the elders as that's happening. And then we used to meet them in the garage and throw petals as the van left the building, because it has to be symbolized and honored. But I would never push a student to do that if he or she couldn't. I mean, that's never the job of a good supervisor. You know. So, any questions? Because we're gonna close again. We'll do one small meditation just to close. So I want to just say a couple things. Be gentle with yourselves when we end here today. Get support from your colleagues right now. Some of you are pretty still broken up. I'm here if you want to sit and talk with me. I'm not going anywhere. Just be aware that this is very tender, what this has stirred up. And you might feel it later, or you know. When I've done these trainings before, a lot of people get really angry at the trainers running it for doing it. And so we all have to clear ourselves right now of the energy of the illness. So I want you to just put the papers down, close your eyes again if you want to. And if you want to keep your little scraps that are left, and if you want everything to go in the bag, I'm not going to look at it. It will be shredded when I get home. Okay? So feel your feet on the floor. A good thing to do if you want to ground your energy is put one hand on your heart chakra and one right below your belly button. It's called the dantian, your solar plexus. And that completes an energy circuit in the body, and it's very comforting. And you can leave your hands that way or drop them at any time. So I want you to think about, if you're a thinking kind, or imagine a golden light above your head, and imagine that it's going through the crown of your head, soft golden sunshine. Some of you are already sitting in it. And as it goes through your body, it's taking away anything and every thought form that we went through in this meditation about illness or sickness or dying. That you're not carrying that in any cell of your body, that you're letting it go. The golden light's washing through every organ of your body. Just going down, washing you clean. As it goes down, gently soothing places, maybe your heart chakra, your heart needs some soothing, your tummy. Just thinking about the golden light, clearing you out, even clearing you out from other people's energy from training today, all the way down, all your organs, your muscles, your bones. And eventually imagining the energy taking everything you don't want, including this meditation and what you went through. You're well and healthy. Imagine all that stuff going down through the soles of your feet to Mother Earth, because she is somewhere down there below us. And she can receive it and neutralize that energy. And I want you to imagine yourself as you were before we started the meditation, healthy in mind, body, and spirit, filled with excitement about the internship, maybe a little tired from the training, but all parts of you, every cell, all the energy balanced and glowing with well-being and health, because that is who you are. You are perfect inside. And when that feels complete, send yourself some loving kindness. May I be at peace. May I be healed. May I have joy. Wishing yourself, opening your heart to yourself. And then imagine opening your heart to everyone in this room and sending them that same wish. We forget to send ourselves loving kindness, especially in this profession. We're so busy loving everyone else. And imagine your heart opening and sending that wish for healing to everybody on the planet. All the men, women, and children we'll never meet. All the creatures we share this planet with, in the earth, in the sea, in the sky. Opening your heart, sending a wish for healing. May the world be healed.